Good morning, class. Today we are looking at solving multi-step equations. The essential question is, how do I solve equations? So the learning intention is also, I am learning to solve equations. You have two warm-up questions. Right now it would be helpful if you would pause the video and see if you can do those on your own. If you're able to complete them correctly, then you know you've got that concept down. So please pause the video and see what you can do on your own. I hope you tried. So as we're looking at this, we're going to look for the term with the largest exponent. I've got x to the third, I've got x squared. X to the third would be the largest exponent. To be in normal form, that's the way we start, is with the largest exponent and go down to the smallest. We have two x to the third terms. So we've got 2x to the third minus 5x to the third. Those are all our x to the third terms. Now we're going to look at x squared. I've got negative 8x squared, and I've got plus x squared. Now I look for my x terms. I've got one x term, 3x, and it's positive, so I'll put plus 3x. And finally, we put our numbers in. We've got negative 4 minus 4, negative 4, and positive 7. Okay, so let's wrap it up now. I started with 2x to the third. I removed 5. That means it's a negative 3x to the third. I had negative 8x squared. I added 1. So that would be negative 7x squared. Remember, if they're opposite symbols, you actually subtract. Then keep the sign of the larger number. Okay, next, plus 3x. That one doesn't change. Negative 4 plus 7. 7 minus 4 is 3. The 7 is positive, so it's plus 3, and we're done. I hope that that is the answer you got, because if it is, then you're well on your way to understanding this concept. Okay, to solve the next one, order of operations says we do what first? Parentheses is true, but there's nothing in the parentheses that can be simplified. So we go straight into our distributive property. You keep that symbol with the number you're distributing, and it goes to both of your terms. The first part of the equation will not change. 5n plus 34 equals. Okay, now we're distributing. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 7, and negative 2 times negative 7, negative times negative is a positive. 2 times 7 is 14, followed by n. Now we're ready to do our equation. As I look at this, I'm going to look at my variables first. Which one's smaller, 5n or 14n? 5n, so I'm going to subtract 5n from both sides. 34 is equal to -2 plus 14 minus 5 is 9n. Okay, next step. Get all your numbers to the same side. I've subtracted 2. The opposite is to add 2. 36 is equal to 9n. The last step will be to divide by 9 on both sides. And 4 is equal to n. Always check your work. Make sure that you've got the correct answer. So 5 times 4 is 20, plus 34 is 54. Okay. So this is 54. Okay, 1 minus 35. 1 minus 35 would be -34 times -2. And that would be, oops, this is where I made my mistake, because that wouldn't have been the correct answer. This should have been a 4 here instead of a 5. Okay, 1 minus 28 is 27. -27. -27 times -2 is positive 54. I checked my answer and it is good. So make sure you check, make sure you recheck if something seems to not be working out correctly. Multi-step equations use order of operations to simplify both sides of the equal sign first. Then you use your inverse operations to isolate the variable. So solving with variables on both sides, first thing I have to do is look on both sides and see if they're simplified. As I'm looking, I see that the right side is not simplified. I've got numbers, so I've got to combine the numbers. I've got 1 plus 5. Those numbers can be combined. 6 equals -2. 1 plus 5 is 6. -2n plus 6. Next step is to subtract 6 from both sides. And 0 is equal to -2n. Divide by -2. And n is equal to 0. If I put it back in to check it, is 6 equal to 1 minus 2 times 0 plus 5? Is 6 equal to 1 minus 0 plus 5? 6 is equal to 6. I've checked it and it works. Anytime you feel comfortable, you can pause the video and complete the notes on your own. The next one has fractions. We all love fractions. So the first object of the game is to get rid of our fractions. I have multiplied by 1/5. How can I get rid of that 1/5? What can I multiply 1/5 by to get 1? Well, we're talking about the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/5 would be 5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. That will get rid of my fraction and make my life so much easier. So this eliminates 3x plus 5. It doesn't eliminate it, it just changes it into a 1. And when we multiply by 1, nothing changes. Equals 10 times x minus 3. Okay, now, are both sides simplified of my equal sign? No. I've got to distribute my 10. 3x plus 5 is equal to 10 times x is 10x minus 10 times 3 is 30. Okay, now I'm ready to, I've got both sides simplified. Now I'm ready to start solving. Step 1, which is smaller, 3x or 10x? Well, that would be 3x. So I'll subtract 3x from both sides. Now this is eliminated because it becomes a 0. And when we add 0, nothing changes. 5 is equal to 7x minus 30. Get all your numbers to the same side. I've subtracted 30. The opposite is to add 30. 35 is equal to 7x. Last step, divide by 7. And 5 is equal to x. So as you're looking at this, we're not going to check, but you would put the 5 back in for x and make sure you had the same thing on both sides. Okay, pause the video and see if you can at least distribute on your own. Remember, it's parentheses and then exponents and so forth for PEMDAS. But you always have to distribute. You always have to simplify both sides before you can start. So pause the video. Can you distribute the 5 and the negative 5? Well, I hope you've tried. Negative 5 times 1 and negative 5 times 5x. Positive 5 times negative 8 and times negative 2. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5x. Negative times negative is a positive. 5 times 5 is 25x. 5 times negative 8 is negative 40x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10 is equal to, now this time I'm going to go ahead and simplify this side. Negative 4x minus 8 more is negative 12x. Okay, combine your like terms. Looking at the x value, I've got positive 25 and I've got negative 40. 25 minus 40, okay, what is 40 minus 25? It would be 15. Keep the sign of the number that's larger, so this is negative 15x. Negative 5 minus 10 more. They're both negatives, combine them with addition. Negative 5 minus 10 is negative 15 is equal to negative 12x. We're ready to solve. I want to get my variables to the same side. Even if I had numbers on both sides, I'd still be thinking, which is my smaller variable, and it would be negative 15x. So I will add 15x to both sides. Okay, this is eliminated here because this becomes 0. I'm left with negative 15 is equal to 3x. 15 minus 12 is 3. Divide by 3. And negative 5 is equal to x. As always, put those numbers back in. Make sure you've got the correct answer. It's easiest to do with a calculator if you have one. Okay, this brings us back down to the last part of what we're learning today. Types of solutions. So as we go through, we're going to think about what's happening. So step 1 is to distribute. 36 minus 7p is equal to negative 7 times p is negative 7p. Negative 7 times negative 5 is positive 35. Okay, so as we're evaluating, as we're thinking, do you see anything wrong with that picture? If you didn't, that's fine. This next step will show you what's going on. I'm going to add 7p to both sides. And I end up with, it's eliminated from both sides. 36 is equal to 35. When is 36 equal to 35? If you think it ever is, then you can give me $36, I'll give you 35 back, and we'll be even, right? No. Okay, this will never ever happen. In this case, there will be no solution to the equation. So that's the first type of solution, is actually not to get one. It could be called the empty set. It could be called the null set. But there is absolutely no solution. So let's look at the next one. I've got to distribute the negative 4. Negative 4 times v is negative 4v. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12, is equal to negative 12 minus 4v. Okay, this kind of looks like what we did on the last one, right? Let's see what happens when I add 4v to both sides. It's eliminated off of both sides, and I'm left with negative 12 is equal to negative 12. Okay, that's always true. 100% of the time that will be true. That tells us that this type of solution here, any number will work. So the solution set is a set of real numbers. Remember our symbol for real numbers. So how many numbers are there in the real numbers? Well, that's an infinite number. So this has an infinite number of solutions. Okay, so stop and think. We had no solution because it'll never ever be true. We've got every solution in the world, which is infinite. What do you think this last one's going to be? So as I'm looking at this, step 1 is to distribute. I'll distribute that negative 3. 8x plus 38 is equal to negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. Negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12, followed by the x. Let's get started solving. Step 1, which is smaller, 8x or 12x? Well, that would be 8x, so we'll subtract 8x from both sides. I've zeroed it out here, it's gone. 38 is equal to 18. 12 minus 8 is 4, plus 4x. Okay, get your numbers all to one side. Subtract 18 from both sides. 20 is equal to 4x. Divide by 4. X is equal to 5. In this case, there is only one solution. Okay, so as we're looking at the way the equations work, you might not have any solution because there might not be any numbers that will make it a true statement. Or it might be that you have everything in the world, and that would be an infinite number of solutions. Or the one we usually work with is the one solution. So we know about solving multi-step equations, but let's remember about our solutions. The three ways it can happen. No solution. Infinite solutions. Or one solution. So I hope that helps you understand.